Welcome back. We are talking about my little sister today, Allison. We're so excited to have you here. Thanks for coming and for being willing to let us tell some of your really, really funny stories. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Allison.
Hello, I'm Allison. Allison Carling. No middle name. And I'm the last of six.
Yep.
And I get spoiled a lot.
What?
Okay, maybe not a lot, but.
A lot.
And I'm 35 and I have a loving family and loving brothers and sisters. 2 sisters and 3 brothers.
We love you so much. I forgot to say, Dad, welcome, and John, welcome. Even though we don't hear from you much, John, we will one of these times, but thanks for all your work. Dad, tell us a little bit about Allison as well.
Well, you've already heard about the day that Allison was born on September 11th, 1985. And Allison was pretty much a normal little girl until when she was about 18 months. I thought she died in the middle of the living room floor. And so I held her in my arms and we called 911. She was pale, her eyes had rolled back in her head, she was shaking. And so the paramedics came and told us that she had had a seizure and that we needed to take her up to the hospital and have her checked out. But she came out of it, slept for like 24 hours. So we took her up to Primary Children's Hospital and did extensive testing on her and found out that she was born with lesions on her brain, which are long sores on her brain, which causes seizure disorder. And she has several other physical challenges and mental challenges, but she's probably the one of all my children that I'd never give away because she's brought a new perspective to all of us. She's made us all grateful for what we have, for what we're able to do, and we never treated her any different. We treated her the same as any of the other children. We required that she go to school, do chores around the house. She wasn't real good at minding, and she was really good at running away.
And the bonus was because she had so much energy. You gave us some great content, Allison. You made us laugh and frustrated, and we loved you. There's so many things.
And so Allison she's been through many studies to try and control the seizures. The medication she's on, the doctor told us once, if you took this medication, you would die. But it helps her control her seizures. So they were very careful that we didn't take the medications or didn't accidentally take it. She went through many studies and we've been able to control the seizures pretty much. She doesn't have what you think of as grand mal seizures. She has the only painful seizure they have, which is a partial. And she has migraines. When she has a seizure, it hurts her. She throws up, she loses her bowels, and there's many a nights we laid on the bathroom floor with her while she went through seizures. And
Yeah, I remember she had a seizure and fell out of the top bunk right next to me, and that scared me. And I remember you talking about seizures and explaining them to me as a kid and saying every time she has a seizure, it's like an electrical storm in her brain and it could take her life at any time.
yeah,
That was scary.
the doctors told us we would be lucky to keep her till 20.
Well, and you knew that it was going to be hard to keep her alive till she was 5, just because
Right.
she had so much energy.
Allison had no concept of minding. She lived her life, and that's just the way it was.
So we're going to tell when Allison was a little kid some of the really funny things that she went through and we experienced with her. Go ahead, Dad.
Well, we send her to a special school, and the first time the bus showed up to pick her up, I talked to the bus driver and I said, "Oh, she's the first pickup." He says, "No, we've got about 15 kids on the bus." And from my perspective, I couldn't see anybody in the bus. So he allowed me to walk up the steps, and I looked, and there was a whole bunch of kids, but they were so small they didn't even reach up to the bottom of the window. So the bus always looked empty when they picked Allison up.
And you were lucky they dropped you off and picked you up right at our house, and we had to walk a block every day.
Well,
Come on.
Sometimes they had to pick me up over at the business next door.
If it was too snowy, they wouldn't come up the street. And Allison had a propensity. We lived just off 21st South, and if someone left the gate, I had to put a fence up just to hold her in. And if someone let the gate open, she would walk out, run out the fence and straight to 21st. And we always said that all of Allison's guardian angels are in intensive care in heaven. Because several times cars had to stop on 21st, and I got yelled at a lot of times. So we put a padlock on the front gate. And when I'd come home from work, it made me so angry because I had to climb the fence to get in the house.
Only if no one was home.
Right.
Which we would have loved to have seen. Oh, which, by the way, we have Mom hanging out on the couch. So if you hear some really awesome laughing, that's Mom.
And Allison loved dolls, but she loved dolls in a different way. She would strip them all naked, tear their heads off. And I had a flagpole. And one day I got home and she had tied all the headless Barbie dolls to the flag rope and hung the heads from the tree. And
she would cut their hair and color all over their faces.
yeah, and
Toy Story gone bad.
so we basically had Halloween at our house all the time. And one time we had a swimming pool, a small swimming pool in the front yard. And Allison had a Cabbage Patch doll laying naked face down in the swimming pool. And cars would come by and screech to a halt and yell at us that someone was drowning in the pool.
Because it was life-size.
It looked like a life-size baby.
You finally said, "Allison, go take that out."
And we had a waterbed, and someone at school or at church taught Allison how to make a picture by poking needles in the outline that you wanted and then rubbing powder over the top of it, and it would fall through onto a paper. So she decided to, with a really long needle, to try that on our waterbed. So she put the paper on the waterbed and she starts poking all the holes. And when I rolled into bed that night, my whole body got soaking wet. And so my wife laid on the other side of the bed, and there must have been 200 holes in the waterbed.
Oh, no. Did the pattern go in the
Oh,
water?
yeah, it was a beautiful pattern. But we had to go and get a new waterbed mattress. And Allison and the neighbors got along quite well. One of the neighbor ladies came by and said, "I need you to come and see my flowers." And down the side of her driveway, a long driveway, she had these big, beautiful mums in a nice line. And Allison had pulled them all out of the ground and laid them in a line down the middle of the driveway.
Yep.
And this same lady, Allison took all the rose petals off all her roses and put them in a bottle. And but the piece de resistance for Allison and flowers was at her grandmother's viewing.
Oh, no.
We took Allison in a beautiful little dress to Grandma Strasburg's viewing, and we kept losing Allison. She kept running away. No matter who I would assign to her, Allison would run away, and we couldn't find her.
I was trying to go pick flowers for Grandma.
So I went out. I saw a little flash outside, so I went outside, and there's a driveway between the funeral home, and there's a canopy, and then the wall of the canopy comes down into a beautiful, like 6 by 12 foot planter. And I looked, and the sprinkling system on the planter was laying outside in the driveway. The whole sprinkling system, which is a PVC pipe going the full periphery, and I looked and saw that Allison had dug it out of the ground. So I spent the next 20-25 minutes redoing the trenches, and then I laid the sprinkling system back in. I covered it up real nice, and then I went in to find the funeral director and tell him what had happened. And when I went in his office, Allison was sitting in the office looking at him. And I said, Allison, come on. And he says, this is about the third time she's been in my office. And I took him outside and showed him what she had done to the flower bed and offered to pay for whatever damages. He's like, no, if there's a little girl that can dig that sprinkling system out, we need to do something about it. So,
Did she ever get her dress dirty? I don't even remember.
I think I did.
I don't remember. Just the fact that she was alive was all we really cared about.
I don't, but the vision of her in this fluffy dress and this big fluffy bow with her hair in a ponytail, and she is just ripping the sprinkler system out. That is the best visual,
Well, I'm sure I got
Allison.
my hands dirty, so I'm sure I wiped it on my dress.
So what were you thinking, Allison?
Well, it looked like there was a flower in a part of where the sprinkler was, so I pulled it, and I guess I pulled all the sprinkler system out.
Oh no.
Because that's why I kept on disappearing, is because I was trying to find flowers for the grave.
But when she left this other school and went back to the school with her brothers and sisters, they would walk home from school every day, and Allison never missed an opportunity to smell every flower along the way, crawl under any sign. The boys hated walking home with her.
You taught Cliff and Jeff patience, for sure. And you found money.
$20. I'm sure we spent on something good.
But she was always a thrill. The girls complained they didn't have enough room in their room, but because we only had 3 bedrooms. So the girls had one room, the boys had another, and Melvin and I had one. So while the girls were at school one day, I built a queen-size loft about 4.5, 5 feet in the air, because we had really tall ceilings. And I threw the queen-size mattress on it. They had a railing, a ladder, and then everything. They had the whole room to play in. And one night we came in there, and I don't know how it happened, but Jeff was on top of one of the dressers asleep, and Allison was in one of the drawers that was open. She was asleep in the drawer. And I'm just glad that I never saw what happened.
We decided to have a sleepover, and Allison and Jeff went through the rails somehow. That loft was really fun, except in the night going down the stairs and imagining the floor was covered in bugs as we ran to the bathroom. Just our minds, right? I'm glad you were okay, Allison.
And then one day, Jeff, he was kneeling in front of the TV, and I heard Jeff just start screaming. So I ran in there, and Allison was standing behind him with a whole gallon of cold milk and was pouring it over the top of his head. And Jeff was so shocked by the milk pouring over his head, he couldn't move. And by the time I got to Allison, the whole gallon was empty.
Why did you do that?
Why did I do that? Jeff would not let me watch my show, so...
Seriously. Here you go.
So I got mad enough that I wanted to pour a whole gallon on Jeff.
Allison and Jeff have had a lot of experiences together. Mom went to the bank across the street, and they were sitting. The bank had a little incline on one side of the driveway, and that's where my wife had parked our old 75 Mercedes 240D. And so she ran in the bank while Jeff and Allison sat out there in the car. And Allison didn't like the way that the gear shift was all stiff. So she said she wanted to relax it. So she relaxed the shifter and it went into neutral, and the car rolled backwards, and Jeff ducked down as they ran into the side of a truck.
Jeff was trying to put on a seatbelt. He was like, I'm gonna die.
So Allison has never had a driver's license and has never driven a car, but she's been in an accident that she caused.
That's true.
And Julie can tell this story. We were at the doctor's office, and the doctor, was you there with us when they put an IV in Allison?
No, that's our next. That's
The
our
doctor
story.
was there, and Allison, the doctor said, I need to put an IV in you to get some liquid in you, because she was dehydrated and she was sick, and they just wanted to give her some fluid. So the doctor put the needle in her arm, and Allison was talking to me, and I was talking to her, and she looked down and she said, I don't want that. And she just pulled it right out.
I don't want a shot.
What's this thing in my wrist?
And we had to explain to her that she needed that. So after we explained it to her, she left it in there. But
I still didn't want it in.
you really have to. And one day Allison got me really mad, and I just wanted to chase her and hug her and tease her. And so she ran away from me, and she jumped on the waterbed and started crawling across the waterbed. So I thought I'd jump on the waterbed and grab her and tickle her. Well, when I jumped on the waterbed, it was like a giant tsunami wave. And she had made it to the other side of the bed, but not quick enough. This wave hit her and catapulted her into the wall.
Oh.
She slid down the wall onto the floor, and I felt bad. I'm sorry, Allison.
Maybe she wants to tell that one. Probably.
So why did you pull a butcher knife on Jeff and Russell and Danny?
Oh, that one. Well, of course the boys wanted to jump, and then I came outside.
You mean on the trampoline?
Yes, on the trampoline. And I wanted to come out and have fun with them, but they kept on saying, no, we don't want no girls on the trampoline. So I went in the house and I grabbed a butcher knife. And I came outside and I was holding it up, and then I was coming on the trampoline, so I dashed it into the tramp.
Oh no.
Jabbed it in the tramp.
Scared the boys
And
off.
scared the boys. And then I got the trampoline all to myself.
I wonder why.
And it didn't ruin the trampoline?
Oh, yes.
Yes, it did.
You guys went and got it sewn up.
All right. Are we done with all the little stories, or?
We just have the one. Allison loved a rat to death.
Oh, Leela.
We had a rat, and she loved it to death. And who was Fidger?
Fidger was the
Sherry's.
mouse. Yeah, it was Sherry's and Allison.
I
Allison loved Fidger too much.
Allison had pets that she just loved to death, literally.
I did not.
Allison didn't know how to calmly hold a pet. But Allison, when she was a little girl, we learned something special about Allison, and she's been special to us ever since. And my wife and I and my wife's sister and Allison were sitting in a room where Grandma Strasberg was dying. And I was sitting on the bed with Allison,
I
and
worked out in the hall for a while.
Allison went out in the hall and came back in, and Allison sat down and she said, "Who are all these people in the room?" And I said, "Well, that's your mom, and that's your Aunt Linda May, and that's Grandma Strasberg, and me and you." And she said, "No, who are all the rest of these people in the room?" And I wasn't exactly sure what she was seeing, so we went back, and Melva had a book. There was a family history book, and so we looked at the book, and Allison pointed out all Grandma Strasberg's brothers and sisters, nobody else, just her brothers and sisters, and said those were the people that were there. And she didn't know any of those people. So Allison, unbeknownst to us, had a little bit of a gift, and it's been kind of a scary gift for me, because I really don't want to know who she sees or what she sees. And so that's part one of Allison.
Yeah, she's amazing. Dad, I have a question for you. What was the hardest thing about raising Allison when she was younger versus now? Which I don't think you're hard right now at all.
When she was younger, she cost us a ton of money just trying to figure out what was wrong with her. And the medications she was on were so expensive that we had to go on studies to see if we could find something that would work that we could afford.
And all the work pants you had to replace climbing over the fence.
Right. And later on in life, you know, now that we've basically got the seizures under control, it's just making sure that she's okay for the rest of her life.
Right. Well, I'm going to reverse this question. So what was the easiest thing when she was younger versus now?
That she had an older sister who knew exactly what she wanted,
Oh, man.
which was Julie. Allison didn't have to talk to Julie. It's like they had telepathy. Julie knew exactly what Allison wanted, and it was something to behold. And
That's funny. You would just point at the clothes cupboard and I'd say, oh, you want this? And you're like, yep.
Or I looked in the pantry and you knew I wanted a peanut butter.
Yeah. That was crazy.
and just the
That was a
fact that
blessing.
Allison has been around 15 years longer than the doctors ever said she would. And
We're
that
glad to have
she's
you.
accomplished what she does. I
Yeah,
mean,
we're
you ought to see the latch hook she makes and all this other stuff. And
We're definitely going to talk about the incredible talents that you have, Allison. Well, do you want to do that, or do you want to tell her part 2 of her crazy stories as she's been getting older? And you're not that old, I promise
Not
you.
yet.
well, I guess there's a couple of stories that we really ought to talk about. Jeff put a popcorn kernel in Allison's ear. And so Mom said, oh, just take her down to Instacare and they'll just take a little spoon and they'll scoop it out. Well, so Julie and I took Allison down to Instacare. It was a kid care.
Yeah.
It wasn't, back then it wasn't an Instacare. It was a place where you could take just kids and get some help. So
And you were about 5, maybe?
Somewhere around there.
So we signed up, told the doctor what was going on, and the doc said, oh, this will be piece cake, no problem. So we went in the room, and there was a whole bunch of kids and their parents out in the waiting room. And as the doctor reached down in her ear with that little spoon to see if he could bring it out, the kernel was pointy part first into her eardrum.
And we didn't know that this was causing her so much pain.
Yeah,
Right,
we had no idea. So as the doctor tried to get it out,
It was puncturing it.
she was screaming and hollering, and the doctor said, this is going to be harder than we thought. So he got some long tweezers, and he said, what we need to do is we need to hold her down so she doesn't move, because where we're going is delicate and she cannot move.
So I laid on her legs.
So Julie laid on her legs. I'm literally laying on Allison's arms. A nurse is laying partially on her body. The doctor's got an elbow on her. And he starts digging for this. And it was like a scene from The Exorcist. Allison let out this guttural, "Leave me alone!" And her head almost spun. And she's blowing snot out her nose. And she's sweating so bad. And she's lifting all 4 of us.
Yeah.
We can't hold her down.
Yeah, she kicked me off of her.
And this guttural, "Leave me alone!" And it was the spookiest thing I'd
And
ever.
then she rips the paper that's underneath her and she stops for a second and laughs and she's like, "Ha, I ripped it." And we're just like, "Who are you?"
Finally, the doctor pulls this kernel out of her ear and she turns into Mary Poppins.
Yeah, and we're sweating.
And we're all sweating and we've got boogers on us and it was terrible. And so the doctor charged me $95 for the privilege of doing this. And as we're walking out into the waiting room, every kid in the waiting room, his face is paled and their eyes are huge because they've just heard what went on in there. And none of them wanted to go in. So we stopped at 7-Eleven and got Allison. What'd you get?
I think I had a Slurpee.
Slurpee?
Yeah, you were like, I need a drink. I
And
don't
Julie
care
and
that
I
it's
got
so
as
late.
big caffeine drinks as we could.
I watched you walk in there and I was like, what did we just go through? And you're wrapped in the blanket. I'm trying to hug you and Dad's getting a drink. We needed a drink.
And so that experience was kind of fun. The other experience is I got home from work and I was really tired, so I decided to lay down and take a nap. Allison came in and said, Dad, there's smoke coming out of the dryer. And I said, well, just pull some stuff out of there and see what's going on. So finally she comes to me and she says, Dad, the dryer's on fire. Well, it's a gas dryer. So I run in there, and she had put so many towels in the gas dryer that when I opened the dryer, the towels next to the lid were dripping wet with water. And as I pulled these towels out, half of the towel was dripping wet with water and the other half was on fire. I opened the back door and I started throwing these towels out of the dryer onto the back porch. And as they hit the back porch, they ignited. And so when I got all the towels out of there, the plastic inside the dryer was on fire, the 3 plastic bars that turned it. So I reached down and I turned the gas off, I unplugged the dryer, and then I went and got a wrench and undid the gas hose. And then I threw the dryer out onto the backyard. And it smoldered for probably an hour until I got some water in it.
You're lucky that house didn't blow up.
But we melted the siding on the back of the house. So if any of you want to come by my house, I'll show you the siding that's still melted.
So Sherry and I walked in right as that had just happened, and your eyes were so wild, and you were sweating and showing us this pile of towels and
In his
Al-
underwear.
I was in my underwear.
Jonathan came and helped first before Julie and Sherry came.
Oh yeah, you helped get that hot thing out.
So we went to the store the next day, and I told them I want the biggest dryer that you make. A dryer that she can't overfill. So they sold us the big 7.5 cubic whatever it was electric dryer. And so far she hasn't been able to overfill it since.
You've been nervous since, right? Do you think about that often, Allison?
Yeah, but now
There
I make
must-
sure that when
There must have been 10, 12 towels in that dryer. I don't know how she got them all in.
I make sure that the towels are actually washed when like all the water's all washed off, and then I can put it in the dryer.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad you guys lived and that the house didn't blow up.
I did get a 3-degree.
Oh yeah,
We got
there
a
is
dryer-
one more funny
dryer.
story. When I was bishop, people used to call, and sometimes they would leave really nasty messages on my phone.
Oh,
And
no.
so Allison was home with, I'm not sure who she was with, but Melvin and I were both gone. She must have been with one of the other kids. When we got home, I noticed that after a while, that the phone wasn't ringing at all. So I went to check the phones, and Allison had cut every phone cord in the house. She cut the cord from the wall to the phone, and she cut the cord between the phone and the headset. Every phone in the house had the cords cut. And I said, Allison, and she said, I'm tired of people yelling at you, so I cut the cords.
I love you, Allison. Oh, this is so fun. You know, we're going to leave you alone for a minute with all the funnies because we've given you a big razz of a time, right? I want to talk about your talents because you have so many, Allison. So,
My talents, I like to do latch hooking. I finger knit. If you guys want to know finger knitting, look on YouTube. And I like to take pictures. And I like socializing. I love people. I like the DI. I
you
love the DI.
That was Jinx. Why do you love the DI?
Because their stuff is not as expensive as the other stores.
And you find so many treasures.
And lots of treasure, lots of clothes, lots of... I always go shopping for the kids. I don't know why I love them so much. And I love socializing, and that's my talent also. And
She's the best librarian the church
Oh, yeah.
ever had.
Good at that. You've told us so much you like to do. Tell us about Walter.
Walter, my cat. I miss him. He died President's Day, and he was a sweet cat. He loved everyone. And
Except Jax.
oh yeah. Well, one time Jax was he's well, Mom and Dion came and warned him about to be nice to Walter, and so Dion and Mom left outside. And then Jack started crying. It's like, well, we warned you that Walter would do something if you were mean to him.
He hugs the kids, right?
Yes, he hugs.
So, Allison, I have a good question. How do you get through life with so much joy? Because you're always so happy.
I just ignore all the bad
It's
and
that
just
simple.
think of the good stuff.
And how do you get through your trials? Because you have a lot when you're in pain, and how do you get through that?
I just do what I do. I just do my latch hooking, or I watch TV, or I do my computer.
So you try to stay busy.
Yes.
You
Or
don't think
people
about it.
come and visit her.
Or yes.
Or you call people. You're so good at that. So I reached out to our siblings, and I mean, I don't know how much you want me to read, but we'll talk about some of the siblings because we talked about Jeff, so he had some nice things to say about you. Maybe we'll get there.
Oh dear.
But I want to tell this memory that Sherry had, and I think this describes you so beautifully. Sherry said, there was this time Jim let me use his convertible. I took Allison for a ride with me, and we took the top of the car off. It was a beautiful spring day, and the temperature was perfect. I looked over at Allison, and she had her face to the sky with a huge smile, and the wind blowing her hair everywhere. She had her eyes closed, and she was at a state of utter peace. I remember looking at her and thinking, she's the most special person I've ever known. The pure joy that I felt looking at her made me so calm and reassured me that no matter the trials we go through, all we have to do is look up, smile, and have faith that everything will be all right. Allison has taught me that if you show kindness to everyone, you will be at peace with yourself. She shows kindness and love to everyone and never judges. She is so quick to forgive and easily forgets the wrongs. I love her so much. That's from Sherry. I love her.
We were
She's
also
our
listening to
sister.
the radio. I think we were listening to Aerosmith.
Oh, that's an awesome memory. You remember this then.
Yep.
And my favorite, I mean, they all gave good responses. Cliff. So your brother Cliff said, Allison has an incredible ability. Admittedly, several times in my life, I have been talking to Allison about a complex problem in my life. When I was done, she would say, well, why don't you just do this? And it was always, always, always ended up being the perfect and simplest advice. This is the gift she has, and it's incredible. And Mom talks about, so I said, hey, I gave all the siblings a chance. Mom, what do you say? And Mom went on the most beautiful things about how you were always willing to just be her buddy. You guys go and do everything together. You're always willing to go and have fun and go on an adventure. And you even know how to make salsa from step one to the very end. You even know how to bottle it. That is incredible.
Yes, I do.
So, yeah, you and Mom always have fun together. I love that. And your brother Jim, the oldest, he said, Scoot is the most giving person that I know. She is kind and loving to children, and she loves the gospel. She's the most unassuming person and always upbeat. And we all have such great things to say about you. I remember when we moved to New Hampshire and just getting to know a new city and state and everything. I was lonely, and you just knew when to call, and you would always cheer me up, and I'm so grateful for that. So, Allison, let's see, where are we? What does everyone love about Scoot? That's the question, right?
I love the hug.
You do give good hugs, doesn't she, Dad?
And she gives great emails.
What?
People on the outside would never understand what she's saying.
Oh.
But everybody else knows what she writes.
I love trying to decode what you write. Can we talk about
Yeah,
Mickey Mamas?
Allison writes phonetically. How it sounds to her, she writes. And I got to tell you a story about Allison that made us laugh for weeks. Allison likes to watch the Mickey Mama show. They sell Mickey Mamas.
It's on Facebook.
Oh, tell them who it is.
My daughter-in-law, Alisa, and her family, her mother, started a Mickey business called Mickey Mamas. And Allison probably bought 40 or 50 blankets.
True.
And so Allison makes comments on the show according to what she types according phonetically, how it sounds to her. And so her two brothers were doing a show one day, and they were talking about Allison and how loving she is and how much she loves her Minkies. So Allison typed, "I'm being raped in my blanket right now."
And I knew immediately what she meant.
And all of us knew what Allison had said. It's just she forgot the W for wrapped.
And Cliff and Jeff, who were hosting
And Cliff
the
and
show,
Jeff, who were hosting, said, "Our sister Allison meant wrapped, not raped."
and they were laughing so
And they were laughing so hard they had to leave the camera.
That was Cliff's memory, his favorite memory. Of
And
Allison.
so, yeah, Allison has embarrassed us over the years by some of the things she's written and some of the things she's said. But she doesn't mean any harm by it.
And we laugh together. You give us the cutest chuckles. Like when you guys came to visit us when we were in Bozeman last year, Cliff said that you told a joke and you said, why was 6 afraid of 7? And you said, because 8, 9, 10. And the whole van just started laughing. And then I remember driving with you one day and you just all of a sudden said, "Julie, I'm so frustrated. I can never find a Denver license plate. I haven't found one yet. I can find Colorado. I just can't find Denver." You cracked me up. So we're going to wrap this up with just one or two really short questions for you, Allison. What do you want to tell the world?
Be nice to each other and eat ice cream, and we'll diet next week.
And what is your favorite thing about being alive on this earth?
Being with my family.
Perfect. And we love you so much. Thank you so much for coming and talking with us today and reliving all of these amazing memories and laughing with us. I hope you were laughing with us. Thanks for coming by, Dad, and for John for doing all your hard work too. And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
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 Bye.